So it should be recording. Jasmine, this is Danny. She is our student loan tutor. She has helped Maggie. I think we kind of talked, Maggie had I don't know, I can't even remember how much, but she brought her down to a zero payment. I still need some help because I can't get she's are you there, Danny? Yes, she's there. I still need some
I'm
help
yeah, you
with a nonprofit. Am I froze?
you're you're freezing for some reason.
Okay. Is it back?
Yes.
Okay, good. Maggie's a nonprofit. I need some help getting that because I never did figure that out. So we'll get that going. But she has helped bring hers down, and I know you said your student loan was kind of a mess right now. So I think she could really help you on the backside of things. I know there is a taxable consequence where we can sit down and kind of discuss how you can put some savings away. So when that taxable situation does come, you can just pull it out and use it. But again, this is Danny. I'm gonna let her kind of take the floor from here.
Amazing. Hi, Jasmine.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. All
When I
right.
get when I get parked, I'll turn my video on so you can see I'm a real person. But I am driving, but I'm almost to my destination where I can get parked.
I love that. That's wonderful. And I know we're also recording this for other people. So for anyone who watches this, thank you for showing up and a special thank you to Matt Aird for putting this together. As Matt said, I'm Danny Lynch. I'm the director of business development for a company called Student Loan Tutor. We're strategic partners of Matt's. And our main focus is education. So today we just want to I always like to get a sense of the room. So Jasmine will kind of go over, if you're comfortable with it, we can go over your situation a little bit. And then we'll break down federal repayment strategies and explore how to leverage your student loan debt, right? And how to see your student loan debt as good debt, which I know sounds wild, but just trust me, just have an open mind throughout this. And we'll go over how you can save money and essentially how you can solve the financial aspect of your student loan debt. Okay. This should only take about 20 minutes or so. And Jasmine, feel free to ask questions along the way. The more interactive this can be, the better, because I'm sure many people who are watching will also have very similar questions as you. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Just confirm you can see this, Matt.
Yeah, we're good.
Then Jasmine, you keep driving safely. Don't you worry. You can replay this later. All right. So a little bit about us. We have been around a little bit over a decade now. So we are the longest running, longest standing student loan advisory company to date. What really sets us apart is two things primarily. One, we're fully compliant in all 50 states, which is extremely rare. So this is what allows us to work at a high level. We work very closely with universities and hospitals, um, uh, also law firms, financial firms, so on and so forth. Okay. And the other thing that really sets us apart is we're the only ones in the US that offer full service loan management. What does that mean? Well, so not only can we build out a strategy for you for your federal student loans, really focusing on how we can see maximum savings, we can also implement that strategy in the filing and handling process should you move into the program we're going to talk about today. So the best way I can describe it is think of us kind of like a CPA, right? They know the rules and regulations best in order to give you the best guidance. And then they can do the heavy lifting of filing for you. So, all that to say is just know you have support, whether you're a client of ours or not. If you're coming in through Matt, happy to discuss your situation and go over your options, right? So that you really know um, how to make an executive decision on which path you'd like to go with your student loans. What we like to focus on is four things primarily. One, how do we keep your payments low? Right? This is the biggest thing I see for new business owners and for new grads. Also, physicians, right? They have really high monthly payments right out the gate. So we want to look at how can we keep your payments low and continue to earn towards forgiveness. And for those of you who are watching this who are like, well, I don't qualify for forgiveness, we're going to go over how you do, okay? We also want to look at how can we reduce your overall loan cost? And that's something we would look at for the life of the loan. So how can we minimize interest accrual if possible, maximize the amount of forgiveness you see, and mitigate the tax burden, which Matt mentioned. So we're going to go over that as well. I think a big important part of this is how do we avoid costly mistakes? And I see mistakes all the time. Okay, so we'll go over what those mistakes can look like. And then, of course, build wealth. I think this is a really important piece. So when you take out federal student loans, you have two avenues that you can take. And this is for anybody. This is even applicable for those parents that take out Parent Plus loans. Although the big beautiful bill has made some changes there. So if you're watching this, definitely please reach out before taking out Parent Plus loans. But essentially, you have two avenues. The first avenue is a standard plan. So think traditional loan, fixed rate of interest, front loaded, hard to get ahead of, right? If this was the only option you had, you most certainly would want to pay this off as quickly as you can, right? However, if they're federal loans, you have a second avenue, which is called income driven repayment. Okay, and this is what we currently have. I'm going to go over what it'll look like next year for the new grads that are going to be watching this or those that are still in school. But essentially, the fundamentals of this program are as such. The first is it's way more flexible. Payments are actually based on two things: household size and taxable income. Okay, so they're going to look at that every single year to determine what is your monthly payment going to be. Oftentimes, new grads are already at a $0 payment right out of school for the first couple of years. Okay, and that's sort of the icing on the cake is they allow for a $0 payment in this program to be active and on time. The second fundamental piece to this program is it does require work. That's work that we can help you with, and it's annual recertification. Okay, you have to just recertify your income every year. There is no scenario in which you're not going to qualify for this plan. That's a common misconception is I make too much money. I talked to my loan servicer and that's what they said. Absolutely not. Okay, so if you have federal loans, you can absolutely qualify for this program. Sometimes you have to consolidate into it. That's something we can help you with. Okay. And then the last piece to understanding the fundamentals of this program is, well, what is the loan term? Right? We know what the loan term is on that balance-based plan. What's the loan term here? So the loan term is going to be the equivalent of your forgiveness date. Okay. So it'll be anywhere between 10 years if you're in public service or all the way up to 25. Okay. Once you hit that loan term, that is your true forgiveness date. So whatever the remaining balance is that you owe on your federal student loans, interest included, will be completely forgiven. Okay. If you're not in public service, that forgiveness amount will look like earned income for that tax filing year. So we do want to make sure you're preparing for the tax implication. And we're going to go over that today. Okay. So for those that are still in school, depending on when you graduate, there are some changes with the Big Beautiful Bill. The new plan will be called WRAP. It's very similar, honestly. The differences are the lowest we can get your monthly payments is $10, and the forgiveness date or the loan term end date will be 10 years if you're public service or 30 years if not, with a tax implication at the end. And the difference here is instead of looking at that discretionary income based on household size and taxable income, they're solely looking at your adjusted gross income. Okay, so that's really the difference. In an IDR plan, there are different repayment plans, just like WRAP. And so think of these as like living, breathing policies. This is why the space can be so confusing because it is ever changing. And so it's our job to make sure you understand what are the differences with the repayment plans. Okay. And that's going to change throughout the life of the loan. So I just want you to see here, these are the current repayment plans that we have. The only one that's really statute in, that's immovable, if you will, it would take an act of Congress to remove it, is called income-based repayment. So starting next year, if you're a current borrower watching this, IBR would be your option. Okay. If you're graduating after July 1st, 2026, WRAP would be your option. Okay. But this is going to change over time. Okay, you have to be in one of these plans, and this is the confusing part, and Matt can speak to this too. You have to be in one of these plans to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So it's a little bit confusing by design. Any questions so far? Jasmine, any questions? Okay.
No.
Okay. So let's talk about the tax implication. Well, we're currently going off 2024 tax brackets. We're still 37 cents on the dollar. So I'm going to give you an example here. So let's just say you had 100,000 at the end of your loan term. Okay, at the end of that loan term end date, you had 100,000 completely forgiven. You would fill out a 1099-C. You'd obviously been working with your financial advisor over that long runway to prepare for the tax implication. But let's just say you were in the highest tax bracket, that 37% tax bracket of the time of forgiveness, and you did zero tax mitigation. The most you would pay in taxes is 37,000. Okay, so 37,000 is always better than 100,000 when we agree. Yeah. So, the here's where I see error. When you apply for this, you're going to apply through your loan servicer. Okay, so this is still federally backed. You'd go into repayment options and you'd go in and apply for income-driven repayment plan if you're currently graduated. And it's going to feel a little bit similar to filing your taxes. However, the Department of Education and the IRS are two separate governing bodies. Okay, so they have different rules and regulations. For example, the Department of Education views household size very differently. And this is like one example of a mistake I see. I often see I'll talk to couples that are married and they're filing separately, and the reason why they're filing separately is because they don't want their student loan payment to be raised. However, you do have an opportunity to reap those benefits of filing married jointly, but claim no reasonable access. And so these are strategies we'll go over with you, okay? Additionally, if you're a new grad and you have roommates, the Department of Education allows you to include anyone that you're living with. Very different than how you would file on your taxes. So it's important to have an expert have eyes on this, really just to kind of help you with the paperwork, and then you could get the hang of it, especially if you're already at a $0 payment. Um, where we come in and really help is if, let's say, I know we have an attorney that's going to be watching this. Usually, right after the bar, your income significantly increases. And so I oftentimes see within the first year, payments can get really high, somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000, 6,000, depending on how much you owe. Right. And so this is where we want to come in and really support you and how we can get the payments as close to zero as possible, if not zero. So the other part of the application is submitting your income. Most people will submit their tax returns. That's totally fine. It is the first prompt. It's the easiest thing to do. Just know that if you're wanting to be more strategic, you can actually submit one piece of documentation for each source of taxable income. So if you're solely W-2, you would submit one pay stub. If you're 1099 and W-2, you have a little bit of a multiple income source, then you'd also submit a self-certified declaration of income letter, really just stating what does your pay look like. I would say the biggest misconception here is they're basing it off of your year to date. Um, if absolutely, if you're submitting your tax returns, right? Now, if you're submitting your pay stub, they're wanting to see within a 90-day window, what is that income look like? You do have an opportunity to show a drop in taxable income. And so that's often where we get really strategic here. And we'll want to show the lowest drop that you'll see, not the highest and not the average, within a 90-day window every year of when that recertification is. Okay, and so this is where I think, you know, I see the most error right here. And so, oftentimes, especially if you're a physician, right out of residency, you'll see your payments are really much higher than in the standard plan. But it's all with how you're filing. Okay, so it's really important to understand how the program works. Um, so I'm going to go over this example This is a client here that had around 160. This is a new grad. They're at a 7% interest rate. If they were to um, decide they want to do the Dave Ramsey style and pay this off as quickly as they can, I just want to show you what that looks like, okay? If they get defaulted into that 10-year plan, their payments are 1857 right out of school. Best case scenario, they're still going to pay around 222. At minimum, about 62K in interest. And the reason why I say this is the best, the best example of this or the best scenario of this is because most people will extend this out about 30 years. So it really is their best case scenario. I do see payments needing to be lowered, especially in the economy that we're in today. If you're starting off with, an associate and then moving into a practice owner, freedom cash flow is really important, right? That you're really focused on that. And so oftentimes people will extend this out about 30 years. Okay. So this is this client's worst case scenario of a strategy that we built out for them. So we got their payments to zero. As you can see, these are active on-time payments, so there is interest accruing. Okay, and this is where it takes a little bit of a reframing of the mind because the goal isn't to pay this off as quickly as you can. The goal is how can you see maximum savings here? Okay, so $0 active payment, there is interest accruing for the life of the loan. Okay, this is a new grad, so they have 25 years. It is going to bring the loan high to 440, right? That 440 is completely forgiven in year 25. Now, worst case scenario, if this client is in the highest tax bracket and they do zero tax mitigation, right? Which obviously any financial advisor would not really allow that. But let's just say worst case scenario, they did, you would pay 160 in taxes, around 162 with the current tax rates. So it's still significantly better than the best case scenario over here of trying to pay this off as quickly as you can. So what we know at minimum is they'll save around 70K. Okay, now here's the exciting part, and I love sharing this with those that are either currently in school and a little bit worried about how they're going to pay this off when they get out, and then they're going to start off their career path, which just making decisions based off of that. I want you to feel the peace of mind and knowing there is a way to solve this financial aspect of your student loan debt, and there is a way you can leverage the debt as good debt, like I said in the beginning. How do we do that? Well, we just freed up 1857 for this client, right? They're no longer making that monthly payment. They're at an active $0 payment in the program. If they put back that 1857 with their advisor into something conservative because they know they're going to pull it out for the tax implication later, right? Even at a 5%, we know they're going to make over $1 million in that time. So not only have we solved that financial aspect of their student loan debt, we're really focused on working towards forgiveness. We know they're going to see around 70K in savings off their student loans, and we know they'll accumulate over $1 million in wealth in that time. It's very different than the approach, that old paradigm thinking of I need to get out of school and pay this off as quickly as I can, then I can start my life. Then I can start building a business. Then I can start building my family and buying my dream home. Absolutely not, not in this economy today, especially with the programs in place that are for you, right? So we'll go over one more example. Jasmine, if you feel comfortable, if you want to share, and you don't have to, just roughly how much you owe, because if I have an example, I can kind of show you what that would look like.
I borrowed 72,000 and I owe 127,000 today.
Okay, so this is a pretty good example for you there.
It's yes.
Okay. And then so I'll show one more of like the 300,000. So this is a case study of a client that has 300,000. They're at a 7%. They're a new grad. If they were to pay this off in 10 years, their monthly payments right out of school will be 3,483. Okay. That's a mortgage in many states. Best case scenario, they'll pay around 417. Lots of interest accrual here, right? Over 117,000. What we know is the worst case scenario if they work our strategy, meaning IBR is the worst case because there are more progressive plans that come in with new administrative changes. So what we know is our worst case scenario if they work our strategy, they're going to save around 112,000. And what we know is if they put that freed up cash flow back, they'll accumulate close to 2 million in that time. So no matter what the tax implication is at the end, they have more than enough to prepare and then hopefully take themselves on a really nice vacation,
And
right?
I would say, like, if you do decide you want to work, do this, if you want to work with us, you're not going to pay that much in taxes. You're going to have tax-free savings. We have a tax strategist. We use a lot of different things, scenarios. That's why I've been trying to touch base with you, even with little things you can start right now. Like that, I wish I would have known when I had little kids. My kids are bigger and I'm still using them tax savings to try and lower income and utilizing that because when this is done, like I said, when Maggie's done with hers, she don't obviously have the same as you, but when she's done with hers, she's gonna have that lump sum of money. But I'm like, you're gonna be able to keep that because we got some tax strategies where we're just gonna wipe out that bill anyhow. So it's a win-win. And like I said, we found a couple of people that, well, I can't quite put up, that 1,800 or that 2,000. So let's put up half of it because most of the time when we're putting up half of it, we still have that taxable consequence, or I mean, cover. You still have extra money, and the way we do it, there's a lot more benefit to it. So I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important note. And anyone that knows me knows that I love showing worst case scenario, always. Because we're talking 25, potentially 30 years in a program. I want you to be at the highest tax bracket, right? I want you, being really successful and whatever that means for you. And I want you to follow your career path in the way that you see fit. Why do I not show examples of public service loan forgiveness? I think it's an incredible program. I'm not a fan of sort of selling anyone on the idea of you're going to be able to qualify for public service for an entire of 10 years because I do see a lot of physicians move out of the public sector and into the private. I see attorneys start off their career in the public sector and then year 5 they move into private. I don't want you to feel held back by that idea. And so even if you're listening to this and you're currently in public
Too
service,
late.
goodness, what was that?
Too late.
You're in public service?
No, that's what I did. I started in public service and left at 7 years.
Yes. And I see it all the time. And so what I want you to know is plan A, public service, wonderful. Plan B, what does it look like not in public service? Well, you're going to have a tax implication at the end, but you have a longer runway to prepare for it. Right. And so that's where even, what Matt is saying, no matter what, even for our clients that are in public service, we want to make sure they're preparing for the taxes just in case. Because there's even schools that are switching out of how they're paying their employees. They use outside agencies that no longer qualify, and we're starting to see that more and more. I want to give you one more example. I just want you guys to look at Plan One. This is actually an attorney client of ours, okay? Plan One is a more progressive plan called SAVE, which is another a topic for another day. And Plan Two is IBR. So we're always going to base your worst case scenario off of IBR. Why is that? Again, it is statute in. Okay, so meaning it would take an act of Congress to remove, historically speaking, they don't budge here, and it's your worst case scenario in the program. So as you can see, the tax implication if you weren't doing any tax mitigation strategies are almost around the same amount as if you were to pay cash on your student loans. Now, I want you to look at Plan One's tax implications. So go all the way to the bottom here. It cuts the tax implication in half, right? Why is that? Because it has a forgiveness subsidy on there where accrued interest is forgiven. We are seeing more progressive plans that come in place that are like that. And so the goal is to just for you to know It's almost like playing chess with this strategy, right? There's going to be moments where new progressive plans come in. We may move you in there for a couple years. If they go away, we move you back into IBR, but it would be 2 years or however long with no interest accruing, right? So we're always going to build off of that worst case scenario. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have one, and you may be able to explain it. Like, what happens? They're in public service for, like Jasmine said, 7 years, and they get out, but they did all the paperwork and they got out. What happens, or where do they go after that if they're in student loan forgiveness with it?
Yeah, I mean, they probably would stay in the same repayment plan that they're in, which Jasmine, we can certainly talk about yours if you're comfortable and you'd like to. But they'd probably stay in the same placement. Their forgiveness date gets extended out. So for Jasmine, who's already graduated, current borrower, would be 25 years in total in IBR. It doesn't reset the clock.
Okay,
Okay.
that was my question. If they just go 5 years and then all once they get a new job, just they're 5 years in, and then maybe 20 years or 15 years, depending. Okay.
So I can
Yeah.
tell you what happened to me, and it really just kind of set the tone for the situation. Apparently, when I did start my public service job right out of law school, and I said 7 years, I believe it was actually five. I think when I got mad, it was five. So I was starting to consider changing jobs, and I just made a random phone call one day to see how many qualifying payments that I had made towards the public service loan forgiveness. And they told me two, which was very shocking because I had been doing it for 5 years. What happened is I was not in the right repayment plan the entire time. So I think you had mentioned that earlier
Right.
this morning. So when I realized that I had not successfully made really any payments, I did end up leaving the job, going into the private sector. And if I'm being completely honest, I really had no payment a long time ago.
Yeah,
So
we can definitely help support you in that. And I'm so sorry that happened. Something that's really important to understand is we have over 42.8 million borrowers to date. Okay, and 1.73 trillion in federal student loan debt in the US, right? So we can all agree it's a systemic issue. Well, we only have five main loan servicers managing all of those loans. And so oftentimes when you talk to your loan servicer, it's somebody that's trained in a call center for maybe 12 hours who doesn't fully understand. Jasmine, I hear situations like yours almost every day, where they're like, well, I was told that I actually don't qualify for an IDR plan, or I was told I make too much money, or I was told there's no such thing as forgiveness, or I hear it all. It's our job to understand these repayment options best. And we have full-time attorneys on staff to ensure that when legislative changes are made, we're still fully understanding it to the best of our ability with what for the borrower, right? And how those bills will be interpreted. And so we do see mistakes like that. They can, Jasmine, in your case, retroactively go back. So let's just say that was the case and you were still in your that job, that employer that was counting actively as public service, they could retroactively go back. So we do see that a lot. It's an error that can be fixed. However, you're in the private sector. Hopefully, it's significantly better for you, and in terms of your the career and the trajectory that you're on now, that path that you chose. And there's still a way to see the same result at the end. It just takes a little bit longer. Okay. The last thing I want to mention is holding these federal loans is not like a private loan. Okay. It's not affecting your borrowing power or your credit score in the same way. That's something that I hear quite often is like, I don't really want to be in debt for 25 years. I want you all who are listening to start thinking about student loan debt almost like a mortgage. And Matt could probably agree with me here. I'm in California, so it's very early here right now. Okay. But the goal isn't to pay off your mortgage as quickly as you can. It's to leverage it. It's to build equity, right? And it's going to help you along the way. Very similar, in my belief, as having student loans. So the thing that really affects your borrowing power, even if you're somebody who has over 500,000, we work with clients that have over 1 million. Those are usually orthodontists. Even if you have a high balance, what they're looking at, what's really affecting your borrowing power is your debt to income ratio, right? So if your monthly payment is $3,000 a month, it's going to be harder to qualify for a business loan, for a mortgage, all of that. So the lower we get the payment, and we help people every day with that, the better your borrowing power will be. So just an important reminder because I do get that a lot too. I know 25 years or 30 years for those that are graduating in the next couple of years feels like a really long time. The I think it's most important to just have your financial plan in place, know that it's solved, so it's no longer occupying space in your mind, right? And you can really continue to build wealth and move forward in confidence, knowing you have that aspect solved. Any other questions or concerns or comments or anything like that?
Jasmine, you got any
No,
questions?
I'm sorry. I am at a courthouse now, so it's fine now.
Um,
The only concern that I have, my situation is I am 40 years old, so there's the clock, but it's okay.
Well, we're not resetting it. So if you have time, we can stop recording and I can actually we can do an eval with you if you want, or we can set a time to do that later.
Yeah, I think I would like to set a time to do that later. I do need to go into work, but yeah, I would like to set a time
Yeah,
to talk.
absolutely. Yeah. I love cases like yours. You're probably much closer to forgiveness than you think. And we just need to make sure we get you in the right placement and really focus on strategies to keep your payments low. Because again, if you're working towards forgiveness, you're not trying to pay this down. And that again, I see this every day where they're like, but should I be paying towards the interest a little bit? Not if we're working towards forgiveness, because even the interest will be forgiven at the end. So it's one or the other. If you owe over 100,000, in my opinion, it's one or the other. You're either going to work to pay this off, or you're going to work towards forgiveness and preparing for the tax implication at the end. Now, if you owe below that, you could do a hybridized approach, something you can talk with Matt about where it's like, okay, well, maybe for the first 6 years, we keep you at a low payment, right? You're working the program so that you can build wealth, so that you can put some freed up cash flow back. And then you could pull that out and do a buyout on the amount you owe if it's very little. And so there is that hybrid approach if you owe less than 100,000. Absolutely.
but yeah, I can send your Danny's calendar. You can go on our website and get it, but I can talk with you, Jasmine, when you're out of court and we can get you set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, and for anyone that's watching this later, the best way to get support is to reach out to Matt directly. If you come in through our website, we cannot honor that complimentary strategy call or a consultation. Like we do have fees for that. And that's all waived through Matt. So definitely take advantage of that. Reach out to Matt to get onto my calendar, and then we can just discuss ways that we can at least tweak your plan or help you build a new strategy and get you set up for low monthly payments.
All right. Well, I will try to get that scheduled, maybe even today, and we'll
Okay.
go from there.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank
All
you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
right.